Yo, Scyfe here, just like the knife, and welcome to my long-awaited crosshair guide designed so you can find the optimal crosshair and not just copy them from pros without any thought going into it. Let's start off with the default crosshair, which is the crosshair Riot has implemented to new accounts, and rightly so. To most, the crosshair looks ugly, especially if you're used to a static crosshair. The dynamic aspect which shifts when moving will for sure throw you off, but it's extremely valuable to learn a core feature within tech shooters, and that's stopping before shooting. This isn't COD, Overwatch, Apex, or Fortnite where you're fairly accurate when moving and shooting. By having the crosshair change when you move, it makes it easier to identify the optimal timing to when you can shoot. Valorant being a tech shooter means you have to remain stationary to be 100% accurate, and by having the crosshair dynamic, the game will visually let you know when that timing is. If you struggle with strafing side to side, check out my Valorant aim routine, which goes into even more detail. So if you're a beginner or cannot properly strafe side to side, give this crosshair a go. Think of it like the training wheels for a bicycle. Before we find a suitable crosshair, we need to understand why finding the optimal crosshair color is so important. I've always thought the color didn't matter, but it genuinely does. Firstly, you want to make sure the crosshair color you're using is viable on all maps. For instance, using a white crosshair with no outlines on a map like Haven might become problematic, as there's a high chance you lose sight of it amidst the chaos of a round. And in situations where you need to flick towards the sky like an updrafting jet, you might as well forget about your crosshair. One color to really consider is green, and it's scientifically proven that humans will notice the color green first in daylight and yellow in low light situation, hence why taxis are yellow. And considering there are no maps that are set at night, it's ideal to have your crosshair greenish/yellow. Then again, you can just get an outline and still run the color of your choice like I do with cyan. Thankfully, Rise added a hex code so you can choose the exact color you want for your crosshair. It's also very important to make sure your crosshair color doesn't blend in with the colorblind settings. For most of you, it'll be red, which is the default colorblind setting, but I recommend trying out the other colors. Let's use a simple color wheel where we'll select the two opposing colors. For instance, going with green crosshair on purple outline enemies. That way your crosshair doesn't get lost, but using a yellow crosshair on enemies highlighted as yellow, or using a purple crosshair on red outline enemies. It will just become difficult to differentiate the two. You want your crosshair to be noticeable but not distracting. That's the key part. Now that we've established the optimal color and why it matters, let's find the ideal size. It's important to consider that different crosshair sizes will feel different and serve slightly different purposes. Let's begin with why having a large crosshair might seem good on paper, but in reality it ain't. Having a large crosshair can allow you to feel more accurate as the target's head is within the crosshair. However, this can hinder your ability to land those headshots at longer ranges. Because the target is only a few pixels, and by having a big crosshair, you're in a way making it harder to determine the exact middle, and then it becomes a judging game. A common plus side, especially in games like CSGO, which has a set spray pattern, is it makes it a lot easier to spray by having a large crosshair. But in Valorant, that goes out the window because of the RNG nature built into spraying, nullifying that point. For smaller crosshairs, it generally feels more precise, and that's because you can see more of the target and take the time to have the crosshair on the target. On the flip side, it can be hard keeping track of it in close range gunfights due to the smaller size. You may ask, which is better? And to that I say, neither is objectively better, so long as you don't use your crosshair that deviates too far on either side. But since it's all preference, you can still make a large crosshair work, but is it optimal though? Should you enable fade crosshair with fire rate error? And is it pointless? The fade crosshair essentially moves the top portion of the crosshair the moment the vertical aspect of a spray ends and becomes random. So if you're someone who's always spraying, give this feature a go, as it can be a good indicator to stop spraying and reset that recoil. Here are a bunch of crosshairs from small, medium and large, with all the crosshair codes pinned in the comments. And as always, until next time.